Hi guys, sometimes Kay Burley is good, sometimes she's pathetic. The Sky News host was edging to the latter in this interview with the Culture Secretary Lucy Frazer, who was attempting to poison the well in a discussion over striking train drivers. Now, as most of us know, pay is one of the issues that's on the table, along with problems related to working conditions and safety for both staff and the public. But in order to turn the public against the strikers, the Tories will focus on wages, and that's where you need robust journalism, which was lacking in this interview.
From the ASLEF, the Train Drivers Union, saying they are prepared to strike for 20 years, if necessary, until this government or future government comes to the table and gives them what they want.
Well, I think it's really disappointing because I think the government is helping facilitate discussions. We are, of course, in a cost of living crisis where we need to keep inflation down. That means we need to control public spending. Train drivers get on average around £60,000. And I do think it's important that they come to the table so that they don't disrupt the journeys of thousands, millions of people across the country.
Of course, it's slightly different with public spending and train drivers, isn't it? But do you think that train drivers are paid enough money at the moment? Is that what you're saying?
Well, as I'm saying, it's important that they come to the table to discuss the right solution.
They say they are. They say it's the fact that the Transport Secretary's not even bothered to talk to them for 6 months.
Well, I know that the Transport Secretary and the Rail Minister have had a number of conversations, and of course...
Conversations with who? They didn't have conversations with the trade unions. They had conversations with the companies. The trade unions have been asking for meetings with the Minister and the Secretary of State. And the Minister and the Secretary of State have said no. And now you're saying, well, they earn £60,000 a year. They have no reason. I'm on £86,000 a year as an MP, but we need to focus. Don't focus on that. Focus on the train drivers who are on £60,000 a year and are asking for something more. Now, as I said, it's not just about pay. It's also about conditions, contracts, and of course, public safety, which is one of their major concerns.
They facilitate those discussions, as you say, but train drivers on average are paid around £60,000.
And is that enough?
Well, that's a matter for the unions. And
see, you can't just say, well, remember they're on £60,000 a year. Is that enough? Well, that's not my business. Then why did you bring it up? Of course, this is about trying to convince the public that the enemy is the railway workers and drivers in particular. Why should these drivers be asking for more money? They're on £60,000 a year. That's the narrative she's trying to push. And then when she's asked about it, it's nothing to do with me.
Those employing the train drivers, but of course I suspect many people around the country would think that £60,000 was quite a lot of money.
Sounds as though you do as well.
Well, I'm not involved, obviously.
She can't say it's a lot of money because she earns more than that. She earns a lot more than that because she's not just an MP, she's also a Secretary of State. So we're talking about over £100,000 a year. So, this is where the robust journalism falls down. I would have pushed her on that. I would say, well, how much do you earn per year? And let's compare that to £60,000. And are you earning enough? That would put her in a difficult spot, and it would focus on her and not on the train drivers. But she would probably come back with, well, I'm not on strike. But why are the train drivers on strike? It's not just about pay, it's also about conditions and, as I said, safety.
In those discussions, I'm the Culture Secretary, but I know that the Secretary of State for Transport and the Rail Minister have had a number of discussions and are very keen to make sure.
Discussions with who? This is where I would ask her once again, who did they have discussions with? Was it with the unions? No, it was with the companies. Why didn't they have negotiations? Why didn't they have talks with the unions when the unions actually asked for that?
That people across the country can go around their daily business.
It's chilling though, isn't it, to think that we could have disruption for 20 years on the railway?
Well, what we've seen post-COVID is, of course, that people aren't necessarily returning to journeys on the train, and the government has subsidised quite a lot of train journeys. And I think it's really important that we make sure that we get those trains back up and running.
People are turning away from public transport because public transport is underfunded. That the service under privatisation is crap. And of course they'll blame, well, the pandemic, fewer people are using it because of the pandemic. Yes, that's part of the problem as well. But if the service is not good, then people are not going to use it. People are going to avoid using the trains. And why is the service not good? Because the private companies are focusing on profit and not in investing in the system. A bit like the water companies. Why is there raw sewage in the rivers and lakes and on beaches? Because the water companies prioritize profit and shareholders over the public. But notice here how she tried to focus the narrative on these train drivers are earning £60,000 a year. They have no reason to be going on strike. Of course, she didn't come out as blatantly as that, but that's what she's trying to plant in people's minds. People who are struggling at the moment and are looking at £60,000 as, well, why are they complaining? They have £60,000 a year. So many people don't earn anything near that. It's about dividing the public from the drivers, trying to drive a wedge between them in order to encourage people to turn on the drivers, on the strikers. But as we saw with the RMT, the narrative is completely off because it's not just about pay, it's also about conditions, about contracts, and about safety. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.